Disclaimer: this show is not for the faint of heart or the easily offended. The views expressed here are that of the show hosts only, and not their wives, girlfriends, husbands, boyfriends, polygamous partners, employers, music artists, businesses, or anyone other than the Cognitive Disillusions podcasters. The explicit tag is there for a good reason. Please proceed with caution.
Every one of us will have to decide whether or not we want to keep this great republic or whether we're willing to sacrifice it and surrender it to tyranny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Cognitive Disillusions podcast, where we address the current issues of today with brash humor, skepticism, or aggression to invoke critical thinking in the masses. We take our tightly held beliefs, everyone's tightly held beliefs, mash them up with current events, politics, and religion, then throw them to the fires of skepticism. We magnify the so-called logic, then blow it all up. There is no green zone of safety for a lack of critical thinking. This is episode number 20. We have a special guest today. Our mutual friend Kenny has joined us. And your hosts today are Joel, John, and I'm Al. We are your tormentors. How is everybody doing today?
I'm good. How you doing, Al?
Good. Thanks for jumping right in there and not making everybody wait.
I know. I appreciate it.
Joel, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. Just to kind of set this up, Kenny is the bass player in our band Push, and we had a great session today. Really rocked out. Dialed in a new song that's just sounding metal and haunting and awesome. And so I'm really glad that he could come on and join us on this podcast, because we're going to get into some science stuff, and he is a scientist, so it seemed to be a pretty good idea.
Badass.
Right on.
Kenny,
Yeah.
welcome aboard.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks for taking the time. So, you want to give a little bit of background to the audience about the band, or what you do, or
In the band or in
or what you do in general life, or
Anything you want to say, really. Don't feel.
Generally, music has been one of the defining characteristics of my life ever since I was 6 or 7 years old, and we all of us have different stories about how we got down the road, but I'm 42 years old now, and I just finally found my musical soulmates, apparently, and I'm glad I waited.
Nothing gay about that. Promise, we just play music.
And there's so many different forks in the road that I could have taken. I could have just not joined the Navy. I could have not moved out to the Pacific Northwest. I could have decided to move back to Florida, where I'm from. But I ended up settling here, and 16 years later, well, about 15 and a half, I met them about September of 2015, when I answered their Craigslist ad, and everything just kind of fell into place.
Just to be clear, that Craigslist ad was about getting a bass player. Nothing weird.
That's what she said.
Well, isn't that what we do on Craigslist? We search for musicians. That's all I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly.
That what Craigslist is for.
Yeah,
Yes.
I always kind of looked for women on it and just ended up with trannies most of the time. But hey, you got to roll with what you get, right?
Well, you got to stay out of the auto parts section.
So
Is that what they meant by a long rod?
So, Kenny, science and music, in your opinion, are they bedfellows?
I think that science, or I guess you could say physics and math, can describe music perfectly, because music is all about vibrations, and math, numbers, time, tonality, sound, pressure, all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah, I think they are joined at the hip in that respect.
In your opinion, do they complement each other within your imagination?
I've fought with that kind of over the years about being too technical-minded or too overthinking it. I think Joel knows what I'm talking about with this. So we can sometimes overthink things or get ourselves stuck into a loop too much, and then we lose the creativity. So sometimes I step back and forget what I know and just start playing, and then some really interesting things can come out of that. And it's still all based around science and the physics mechanics of playing your instrument. But there's something else. It's something from within us that it's not really scientific. It's all feel. I mean, it's all science, in the universe, anyways. But it's how you put them together in unique and different ways. So it's the tricky part.
Yeah, Joel, I feel your pain. He's nuking it out big time.
And I was ELT, by the way.
Nice. Okay.
So there you go.
I was ELF. I like smiling. Smiling's my favorite.
At least you weren't ELO.
Crickets.
ELO, you would just be...
So yeah, I just to kind of piggyback off of that, there's certainly, obviously, everything in the universe is based around physics. So I mean, there's nothing otherworldly in theory about music, but there certainly is a thing that happens. It's hard to write down on a piece of paper or calculate. That really is the most obvious form of transcendence that we can experience is music and creating music.
Well, physics. I mean, doesn't NASA use that sometimes?
NASA does, especially when they're trying to look for new fucking planets, like the topic we were thinking about.
And organic segue is complete.
Lovely.
Look at how professional we
organic.
pretend to be today.
Sounded good to me.
Yeah. So, NASA released on May 10th the discovery of roughly about 4,000 new potential planets, and a little over 1,200 of them, they were saying, were the probability of being a planet was greater than 99%, which opens the door to a lot of new discovered planets outside of our solar system, outside of our galaxy, and some of them, a lot of them were based inside our galaxy, but we can see farther than that a little bit. And the topic really was, how does this impact people's mindsets? How are you guys viewing the discovery of new planets, planetoids, things like that, outside of our galaxy or even inside of our galaxy? Where do your minds go?
Based on the information that I got from the articles, it sounds like this is old data from the Kepler-1 program. They started a new program using the same Kepler satellite that's already in orbit, but with the old Kepler-1 data, they came up with a new analysis method that showed them, no, in fact, we didn't actually only find 1,000 new planets. We actually found like 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 new planets, depending on whose data you want to read. There are several scientists that are not quite in consensus about this, but it is a rather large number of previously unknown bodies.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that, when you ask about how does it affect our mindset, I think that if you know in general terms how stars are created, and you understand, again, in general terms, the accretion theory and how we've seen that work, I mean, I guess I guess, learning that they're there. The coolest part about it is that we can actually see them, but it doesn't surprise me in the least, because it makes sense on an intuitive level just based on the general knowledge I have of astrology. So,
Astrology?
astronomy. Oh, yeah, astronomy. Sorry.
Saying, Joel, the two don't really have anything to do with each other.
No, dude, seriously, I'm a Capricorn, and fuck you. Astronomy. Oh, God, why did they take that term? That really annoys me. But anyways.
Stars hanging up there in the ether. Yeah, okay. All right.
Speaking of ether, can I have some? That was embarrassing.
Something that intrigued me about the number. They're talking about numbers, and I think a lot of people get really caught up in numbers, but the numbers really don't mean anything to me at all, because I think there are way more out there to be discovered. So this is just the tip. Insert metaphor.
Just the tip, man. Just the tip.
We know they're out there. We're just now finding them. There's going to be thousands, tens of thousands, millions more. So it is exciting. However, we know there's going to be more, and they're going to keep finding more. So
well, and I understand that point of view, but where the excitement comes from is the fact that we've never found a bundle, at least up until this point, that many all at once. And by reviewing the old data and going, oh my God, all these are out there. I mean, it's excitement for the fact that we found this large cluster, and through the raw data. And that's where the excitement comes from. Yeah, we understand that, there's 10 to the 22nd power worth of, stars just in our galaxy.
Billions.
And the majority of those are going to hold some sort of rocky. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to find a lot of planets. We know there's a lot of planets out there, and each star isn't going to have one, but several stars are probably going to have more than one. But
and the interesting... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go.
Well, I was just going to say, the interesting thing about this is that, indeed, there's nothing remarkable about our solar system. Everything about our star is average. And so it stands to reason that if we are orbiting an average star, that there's going to be similar solar systems out there. And it is, obviously I want to delineate the difference between being unbelievably excited about our ingenuity as a species to find these things. It just is mind-boggling when you have and we don't have an intuitive understanding of how big space is, but it's really fucking big. And the fact that we can find these less than grains of sand equivalent, it is mind-boggling. But at the same time, it shouldn't be the result shouldn't be surprising in and of itself.
Right. I agree with Joel that the excitement comes from the fact that our technology and human intelligence is evolving to a point where we can finally see these things that are already out there. Now, what is the next step? What are we going to do with this knowledge?
See, and
aliens.
That's where I got to step in, because I got to be the one to disagree with you guys just a little bit. This information is really neat, and it's really cute, and it is evidence, it is proof of a kind. But, we've known that there have been other planets out there. As far back as Tycho Brahe, the notion of the plurality of worlds, the notion that there are other people out there that don't really look like us, we don't really know what they look like, but hey, they got to be out there. It's not proof, it's just conjecture until you start getting proof like what NASA is giving us. But honestly, I'm not impressed that we found even one without making some effort at trying to visit with them, trying to go there, trying to do something with the knowledge. The knowledge does nothing if you don't do something with it.
Well, and that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to create applications. First, you got to know where you're going, especially in this type of environment. It's not like exploring on Earth, where the old sailors used to get into big fucking ships and go, you know what, we've got enough food to go 3 months out, 3 months back, and we'll see if we find something, because they know that they can come back. We don't have the technology yet to go even to the nearest star. So to be able to plan these trips to go, what's our best option here? We can't do that yet. We don't have the technology. So it is exciting to go, you know what? We know there are worlds out there. We know there are planets out there. Some may be able to harbor our life. Some will probably harbor life that's extremophile in some way. But we've got to know where the planets are before we can start planning, hey, let's go here. Currently, it's an 18-month trip just to get to Mars and back.
Sure, that's with everything lined up right.
Yeah, and that's in our solar system. You're talking trips, 40,000 light years away kind of thing.
Sure, well, clearly the propulsion systems that we've even really started to develop, even the most high-tech, are still nowhere near what they would need to be to do that. I mean, we really would have to have either one of two options to get, like you say, even to the nearest star. One is some kind of warping of space or wormhole technology, or just some way of where you won't get there in one person's lifetime. So you've got an ecosystem that travels there over who knows how long, and that just the offspring of the offspring are the ones that sort of reap the benefit.
that concept has always kind of thrown me, and here's why. The ecosystem idea. I mean, you've got 7 billion people on this planet, and half of them don't want to fuck the other half. So you've got to convince a bunch of people to get on this fucking spacecraft and go, oh, and by the way, you're going to fuck each other. You're going to breed, and those kids have to breed with each other.
They don't have to breed through sexual means.
Well, even so, could you imagine, right now you have mothers and fathers not willing to accept the responsibility of their own kids on this planet through in vitro fertilization. You really think that's going to work on a spacecraft?
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this question. So, what about the moral implication of that? So, you were essentially we're mandating to generations that have yet to be born that this is what they're going to do with their lives. You're stuck on this fucking spaceship. So
that's the thing. Those children would never know any different. That would be their universe.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like parents moving to another country. It's not. It's similar. Obviously, much more extreme because you can't go back. But I don't know. Obviously, I think that the more likely. Seems crazy to think this, but I actually, for some reason, I do. Of those two scenarios, I think the more likely would be us finding, again, some kind of warp technology or, creating wormholes and that kind of stuff.
Well, see, the main reason I raise my objection is because here we are 50 years after going to the moon with basically extremely inferior technology considering what we have now.
Less than a cell phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, not just less than a cell phone, less than a fucking calculator.
Yeah. TI-80.
So, if we were able to go to the moon then, and we were, technologically capable of going to Mars the following decade in the 70s, why are we here now almost 50 years after that and not even trying? Do we really even have any business doing the science that we're doing if we're not willing to explore even our own little neck of the woods?
Absolutely we do. And the reason why we do have that, we not only have that, but we have the obligation to do that exploration, do that scientific investigation, because it broadens our ability to know our universe, at least what we can detect in it. And it gives the next generations, future generations, a jumping off point, just like our rover Mars missions do.
Fair enough. I'll buy that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, is you've got to, and Al already kind of said this, but you can theorize about what's out there all you want. If you have hard data, that then becomes a goal of a kind, just because you've discovered it, just because whatever it is that makes us human says, well, there's a thing over there, I need to go check that out. And so we are setting up the excitement for future generations to go and figure that stuff out. Now, that being said, we definitely are science in general, as far as that goes, is kind of being forced to run on a little bit of cruise control right now, because we can't get our shit together as a species to figure out what's more important, making war with one another or trying to discover amazing new things. I mean, that's really... I kind of get your point there, John, in that it's easy to be sort of pessimistic about it, but I think we're just kind of keeping the motor running a little bit here for us to hopefully figure our shit out.
Do you think we will?
I hope so. All I can do is hope. I mean, do my little bit, and hope that we do.
There's a couple different options that I've thought about that would force or lead us in that direction. One, our curiosity just overwhelms us to the point that we have to explore the universe, and that drives us to invent the technology. Or the other one is we got to get off the planet for some to avoid some disastrous situation, like in the movie Interstellar. Yeah. Necessity is the mother of invention, and so in that case, we would have to do something. Push the technology.
It's not only that, but Glenn Hystra, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a futurist. He's a speaker, consultant, author. He's one of the foremost thinkers when it comes to future technology, and he brought up an old idea that was brought by Asimov, was the world's theory. World's hypothesis, if you really want to be technical, and that's each civilization goes through certain stages, and before you can become a solar society, one that has conquering of its sun and its current solar system, you have to be a global society. And right now we're fighting with ourselves to become that global society. And that's kind of, I think, at least my viewpoint, has been our sticking point in the last 50 years. We made these leaps because we had enemies. Now those enemies are starting to dissolve, and we're starting to become more globally connected, more interconnected as a species, and seeing ourselves as a species and less as countries. So once we break through that dome, then we can go to the solar society. And if we get to the solar society set, then we can start making the technology as a species versus as countries.
Thank you. You just proved my... I was going to bring all that up. You basically just gave my whole opinion on the subject. We really...
That sucks.
I have to wonder, why are we spending any money at all on something just idling the engine? Because, Kenny, you are absolutely right. We need to do this kind of research, and there are those people who want to do that, but it's such a minority on this planet that it's almost, it's cute, it's awesome that people are finding this stuff, but it's such a minority of people who want to progress and move forward in the sciences that are not so self-absorbed that they get stuck in the rut of nationalism and corporate intrigues. I don't want to say capitalism or greed, because of course those have baggage, but we'll just call it corporate intrigues, that they're actually doing real science, doing real progress. Let's face it, the Tesla is not real science. It's cute, but it's actually a step backward. We're going back to the 1920s where cars were run on electricity. That's not a step forward.
I don't think so, because every advancement that we have with our technology is either through military advancement or through the space programs. And the space programs inspire. They inspire leadership. They inspire technological advances. They inspire an interconnectivity. And those technologies that come out of those are communications techs, they're propulsion techs, they're chemistry and biological techs that we don't have before. And people use them to this day, iPhones, braces, tooth braces, things like that we use today. And those people using that technology goes, wow, how does this work? And then that inspires, kids like my son and my daughter that go, I want to know how this works. Okay, let's learn about it. And then they make those steps that make leaps and bounds ahead of others.
Well, stepping into Joel's Bernie category, do you really think that your kids are going to have that opportunity? I know that you hope that they will, but be honest with yourself. In this world, as it stands now, do you really think that your children, my children, anybody that you know is really going to have the opportunity to make those discoveries? Let's face it, nobody is discovering anything unless they belong to either a corporation or a government.
I believe that they do. Invention happens whether, a corporation or a government wants it to or not. It's going to happen.
Well, and corporations and governments are part of everyone's life to some extent. So there really aren't any people out there that aren't in some way profoundly affected by both of those types of entities. So,
well, no, I get that, and those aren't the people that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you and me. I'm not talking about average Joes. I'm talking about the people who are basically owned lock, stock, and barrel by these entities. I mean, somebody like Werner von Braun was not his own person. He was, for lack of a better term, a wholly owned subsidiary of the U.S. government, and he was the guy that got us to the moon.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. I'm having a hard time relating to it.
Some of these things are just too big for the little guy or the little girl to do on their own. It takes much more resources, and so there has to be some, and I hate to admit this, some money involved to help the process move along. And that's where grants come in. And, so there are times where the people receiving the grants are somewhat beholden to the grant issuer. But these things are bigger. These are very big. Traveling through the solar system, it's huge stuff. It's not one person could do that, or they could stumble accidentally upon something that we could use. Then it has to be developed, and that takes even more resources. So.
Well, and that's what the SpaceX program and Virgin Mobile, they're putting forward the money to where our governments aren't anymore. NASA's budget was cut massively, and it only accounted for 1% of 1 penny in tax dollar wise. It was a ridiculously cheap amount for the space program and all of NASA combined. And we cut that down. So we've got private corporations that are making those advancements in, re-entry and landing and, advanced takeoff devices, propulsion, glide times, things like that even our government wasn't investing in. So we're making leaps and bounds. Yes, it's through a corporation or multiple corporations, but those multiple corporations are making advancements that our countries hadn't in decades. So to say we're taking steps back, even with the Tesla information, the electric vehicles and, the Tesla, wall battery for houses, those are steps to make us less dependent on foreign, energy and more dependent on internal.
Man, you guys really have drank the Kool-Aid, haven't you? Listen to yourselves. You're giving corporations and governments basically carte blanche to take over human progress.
No, I never said that.
No, hear me out on this. Turn the clock back 100 years. Look at the Wright brothers. Look at Edison. Yeah, Edison became wealthy, but when he first started out, he was nobody. Nikola Tesla, the guy who invented our modern world, was a nobody. These people were not corporations to begin with. They built themselves up to that. But at this point, our technology, our progress has been pretty much either, I mean, you can use the word stalled or halted, whatever you want to call it, by these huge interests that are honestly, in my opinion, and based on my observations, more interested in themselves than they are in human progress. You know, the Wright brothers were poor farmers.
Yeah, but bigger dreams require bigger resources.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, so Tesla, he invented a lot of stuff on his own, but then, like, sort of go to my point, when things became too big, he needed some cash to get to build the projects that he was dreaming up, and so he went and he actually went to J.P. Morgan to help with the Wardenclyffe project.
That was actually Edison that went to Morgan. Tesla ended up talking to Westinghouse. That's where the two the competing factions ended up going. But yeah, I get your point.
Well,
they needed investors. Yeah, I understand.
You know, you can imagine things as big as you want. To build them is another separate issue, because you got to pull the resources somehow, and not to be beholden to the giver of the gift. There has to be some clause which removes the strings, saying, well, we're going to give this money with good faith that we are doing this purely for science.
Oh no!
Right?
No. They weren't.
He said the F word, Al.
No, he didn't. Okay, Al's still with us. He's okay. You're okay, Al. You're okay. Just breathe. Just breathe.
Well, I mean,
this isn't fucking Lamaze class.
Woosah. Okay.
The whole thing about this planet is money has become way too important in so many areas, and
yeah, I agree. I mean, it really, we have to figure out a different way to incentivize these endeavors. There's no doubt about it. The economic system that we have, it doesn't lend well to this kind of discovery. It doesn't, because of the incentive. The incentive is not is not the discovery. It's trying to figure out how you can make money off the discovery.
Exactly.
So that's a problem, and you know, we really do, if we really want to make that leap to a solar society, then the incentives have to change, and you know, that's not going to be an easy thing. In fact, that's going to probably come from a situation where we're on the brink of being gone, or we have to transcend this archaic mindset of everything has to make money, everything has to be profitable.
I totally get that, Joel, and I totally understand where you're going, but you guys are missing my crucial point. We have spent 50 years doing, I'm going to call it literally nothing, in the category of space flight, space exploration. We went to the moon, and then we stalled because the Soviet Union decided not to play games anymore. We're not doing it for abstract knowledge. There are very, very few, less than 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of a percent of the population are trying to learn something new. The rest are trying to make money off of it, and it's causing us to stall.
Well, we've put some very complicated machinery on Mars. I mean, it's not nothing in the last 50 years. We've put some extremely amazing telescopes in the sky. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't feel as dire as you're making it. Though I get your point. I really do. I think it goes along with what I'm saying about the fact that the incentive has to change how we deal with things. And I think it's going to come down to this. I think it's going to come down to the fact that we're building more and more complicated machines on this planet that are able to do more and more things, and then we'll get to that point where those machines that we use to build this and build that actually become almost or more intellectually capable of these things. And that's how this stuff gets built. When everything gets automated and everything is done, these incentives that we have now start to become less important. And I think that what you're seeing is the final throes of that mindset, because as things get more and more automated, there aren't jobs. Because everything's being done by machines, we're going to get to a point of crisis where we either accept that every human being is going to be getting whatever, the basic things they need to live, so that we can all become a planet of discoverers and scientists.
And that's exactly
why we're going to go to hell.
It sound like a crisis is because it is. We're getting to a point as a society where people are almost incapable of keeping up with the corporate interests, but the corporate interests aren't doing anything to help the people. They're doing it for themselves. Case in point, in the 1940s and 50s, we were exploring our ocean bottoms. We stopped, and I can't for the life of me figure out why. It's like Vietnam came around, and all of a sudden, everything stopped.
It's the military-industrial complex.
I think you should check with New Orleans, just saying.
What do you mean?
Sorry, that was a really bad joke.
I got
I didn't even get it.
Mm-hmm.
The New Atlantis.
Somebody want to catch me up?
New
Yeah.
Atlantis.
It was underwater for a while. Never mind.
Yeah.
That was really bad.
Yeah, I got a chuckle out of it.
Well, thank you.
I'm embarrassed. Fucking bass players, man. Fucking bass players.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we're saying what I feel like, John. I think that we are mutually making a distinction without a difference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm
frustrated with the lack of motivation.
I am too. We're building. We are creating a society of automatons in many aspects, and it's getting harder and harder to be unique. And I think it's through our uniqueness that we have those people that
back in the 50s, 40s, and 50s, we had a motivational push. Okay, and the motivational push was it was the competition with the, I guess, USSR. I was going to call it the CCC, but that kind of dates me in a way. But we had a motivational push. Now we've got what I would call a motivational pull. Kind of like a slingshot effect that's going on right now, getting pulled back. We've got these businesses and these corporations that are making these huge jumps. And at the same time, we're becoming a more globalized society. So once we adhere to a globalized society and realize that we are one species, and our children are seeing these advancements and this new technologies and the faster phones, the more interconnectivity, the interconnectivity spreading out to second and third world countries, and not just countries where it's been the last 20 years, you're starting to see this acceleration of knowledge and acceptance of scientific theories and scientific advancements that previously, especially in third world and second world countries, they were rejecting, mostly, this is my side point, because of religion. But now they're starting to catch up, and you're starting to see this acceleration of knowledge headed out. And I think if more and more kids are seeing these SpaceX ones and these Teslas and this, that, and the other, they're going to be going, I'm really interested in this kind of technology. I'm kind of interested in this. And it's all going to come together in the next 10, 15 years, and we're just going to fucking slingshot. But that's just me.
Well, yeah.
Maybe I've got
I think that this is very... is this a word, pendular? It is a pendulum. Anyways, just like everything. I mean, how many times have we talked about different topics on this podcast where we just... It's predictable, the pendulum effect.
Well, of course we do, because Al's a racist.
God.
New Orleans joke.
And it all comes together like a little bow tie. That was awkward. Can we acknowledge that awkward moment there for Joel?
Inserting crickets.
Thank
he
you.
He meant to say wrapping it up nicely with a bow. That's what he
With a
meant
bow
to say.
that's
Yeah.
tied.
I don't know, Kenny. What do you think, Kenny? What is going to motivate our children to do any kind of progress at all?
Okay, one thing that I see right now that has been happening throughout my entire life is that society seems to be raising a generation after generation of consumers. And you see commercialization everywhere. There's more commercials on TV, cable, now internet, your phone. Everywhere you go, somebody wants you to buy something. Why? Well, they try to claim that you need it or it's a new technology, but when it comes down to it, behind it all is profit. And I'm concerned that it's still motivated by money. And they've taken art, they've minimized arts and music in school to the detriment of the sciences, because we all know that music can help students excel in sciences.
Straight out of Rush's song "Natural Science" on the Permanent Waves album, science, like nature, must be tamed, with a view toward its survival. So, but here's the thing: if we have to see, I have to agree with you that society is going in a very odd direction. You know, for the first time in human history, we are actively trying to stop people from being independent, to stop people from being self-sufficient, and make them, not just a person, but all people, interdependent, not just on each other, but on the organization, on the order that maintains itself. Do you think that is a healthy environment?
But let me ask you this, though.
For this kind of exploration.
Again, I think this is what kind of has to happen because of the resources that are involved. What we're having is we've got 1 foot inside 2 pools right now. We are interconnected, which is exactly what we need to be in order to do the kind of exploring that we're talking about. But we also still have this more archaic mentality that I got to make sure that I have the same amount in my bowl as the other person does in their bowl. Well, my thinking
You're
is,
a Bernie supporter. Listen to you.
No, but hear me out here. So if we have a scenario in which, again, all humans, your basic needs, everything, it's understood when you're born that you don't have to worry about that stuff, and then you couple that with the interconnectivity and the drive that we all have inside all of us to discover new things about ourselves and our surroundings, then if you're no longer having to waste all this energy doing a job you fucking hate so you can survive and you can actually do the things that you're passionate about, yeah, maybe not everyone's going to be motivated to do the sciences. Maybe they will just want to be musicians, or maybe they want to make art. Well, that's okay. I think a society that I'm talking about will allow for that, because those things have, again, like Kenny was saying, those things have a profound effect. If you put joy into people's lives, everyone that has their what's the word I'm looking for? Proclivity to, is that the word?
Yeah.
Proclivity to whatever it is that they just sort of are innately good at. Some people are going to be good at science, and if we're taking away these chains and these anchors that we put on every single person that's born, of, you've got to have a job, you've got to, that you're not interested in, more than likely, you take all that away and you just let people be their creative selves. That's how you get there. You can't have a foot in each pool. We've got to dive into this idea that we are a collective, that we are a collective of individuals, and everyone's going to have their own little way, their own little way of contributing to this society that wants to move forward together.
And the
So
more,
what you're
go
saying
ahead.
is you want them to let us be free.
Right now, we're not free.
That's right.
We think we're
not
free.
And we're
But
not
we're
going
not.
in the direction where we're going to be free.
That's the whole point, is that they're not letting us be free to be ourselves because we have to survive. That is what we do. We survive.
And there's no reason for that.
Exactly.
All of the resources that we as a society, or we as a species needed to survive are here. They're just made scarce or available depending on markets. You take all of that away, and everybody gets what they need, and you don't have this sense that's created from the scarcity of, I need to get the next this or the next that. Once that whole concept is sort of eliminated from our lives, then we take a giant leap forward. Giant.
I'm not convinced.
I know. It's because you suck.
The notion of survival, works in more backward societies, but in a it's the more technology we discern, the more technology that we discover, the more dependent we become on the technology, and the less we survive. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, what about? I mean, this has in a sense of what it could be. You know, the futurist sort of attitude about this. I mean, are you suggesting that an idea like we see in Star Trek is not possible? Where, again, my understanding of the society of Star Trek is they don't have money, they don't have anything. You've got a piece of a machine that makes all the food you want, and whatever it is that you could possibly need. And you still have the strife, you still have love that you have to figure out. You have all the different things that you need to get out of your system. All that stuff is still going to be there. We're still going to be human, but we don't have to worry about where we're going to get our next food.
You still have Khan. You still have the people who want and want and want, and it's always going to be there. The problem with a spacefaring society is space is completely and utterly different from the Earth. We developed here. We belong here. We love here. This is where we survive.
Whoa. I wouldn't say we belong here. That's fucked up.
Oh, no, we do. We do. This is where we developed. This is where we call home. If we go anywhere else, we die unless we have here with us.
We evolve. I mean, that's what evolution is.
No, but that takes a very, very long time. Nobody's going to...
No. I'm not talking about evolution by natural selection all the time. I mean, certainly that will play a role, but we also have
technology.
Yes. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Simplest way of putting it, I suppose.
You belong.
But John, I need to know. I'm a little surprised at your demeanor in this. I really need to know your positive outlook on this. I know it's in there. Okay, I don't know if you're just playing devil's advocate here or what. But
you got to let me finish. You got to hear me out.
By all means.
What I'm saying is, we belong here. We developed here. Here is our home. If we go there without taking here with us, we die. So we have to take here with us when we go there. That means a huge amount of technology, a huge amount of investment, and a huge amount of taking here and putting it out there. If we go to Mars, we have to take spacesuits with us. We have to develop some kind of habitat. We have to have rockets to take us there. We have to have all this stuff that's going to take an infrastructure that is far greater than the number of people who can go.
No, we just need Matt Damon and a bunch of potatoes.
Is anybody else picturing putting like huge rockets on Antarctica and like the Earth being a spaceship, like
spaceship Earth?
You know what? Larry Niven wrote about that. So did Isaac Asimov. Go ahead.
So that is the reason why we're looking in so many places for these planets, is so that we could find one that is so similar to ours, that combined with the other thing, can we make the trip in a short enough time that going there will be like here? So
No, you're misunderstanding.
We've jumped over that. We've jumped over that barrier. We're looking for a place that is habitable to us, so we can start leapfrogging from place to place. In that way,
misunderstanding me. Even to go into our own orbit, we have to take Earth with us when we go just into orbit. We can't just go into orbit. We have to have a rocket to take us there.
I'm really not understanding the point here.
Unless there's a technology that we don't know yet that can do it for us.
Well, yeah, okay. So let's go ahead, because I feel like we're spinning our wheels here. Let's grant the premise that yes, we have to bring with us an atmosphere. We have to bring with us water. We have to bring with us food. Yes, I accept that.
Like,
next,
you sound like you're giving in to me, but that's
I'm not giving it to you. I know it's true. I'm not arguing that point, and yet I'm arguing that point. That's what's driving me nuts. I don't want to argue that point.
Joel.
So let's move on to the next phase of your vision here, John.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up and making such a big deal of it is because that takes a huge amount of infrastructure, and nobody's going to invest in that unless they can get something out of it.
Well, we've already talked about that. I mean, we've already discussed that. Yes.
Well, the attitude.
Who's going to invest in it?
The attitude has to change. We have to stop thinking about profit. We have to start thinking about doing things for their intrinsic value.
Beautiful. How do we do that? It's hard. Again, you do that through automation. I don't know how we do. I think if somebody knew how to do it and had the means to make it happen.
I think we do it through music. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
That is part.
Wild Stallions.
Wild Stallion.
Oh my fucking god.
That is part of our, and not to
we just made Al religious
too much.
Saw God.
That is part of our mission, right? It is to, because music is such influential. It is so influential on people, and it can stir up their emotions, and it can take them places. You can insert messages, and if you insert the right message, like, hey, why don't we start taking care of each other? Why don't we do things for their own value, etc.? People will try that. I understand that
way, because today we're more interested in booty and gold necklaces.
I like to have my gold necklaces on a booty.
I disagree. That is true. That is true, but it's a fad, because those sorts of valueless things will come and go. They'll die out, shrivel up, and we'll try and jump on the next frivolous thing.
So it's
kind of the cycle that we're on.
And let me just say, okay, so we've granted these two things. One are the way we deal with economics right now. Well, I should say the way we deal with resources right now is not tenable for moving forward in the directions and at the speed that we're hoping for and talking about today. We know that. We also know that if we're going to leave here, we've got to take here with us. So, I mean, if we want to keep talking about if we want to try and solve this problem on this podcast, then that's fine. We can keep talking about that, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, I mean, I guess I want to hear everyone's thoughts on, let's say we beat these things, which really just come down to attitudes. We transcend these attitudes. Then what?
You're going to have to convince 99.9% of the population.
God damn it, John.
What?
I know we have to change the attitude. I've granted you that.
I want everybody to stop and realize that this is Joel's faith moment right now.
Nice.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's right. Al and...
Oh my God, that was funny. I'm getting mad. God damn it.
Fascinating.
Oh man!
Seriously,
Oh,
you
that's
know
funny.
what, Kenny? I'm totally on board with using music to try and change the culture because let's face it, in the Star Trek universe that we mentioned earlier, it took a nuclear fucking war to do it, and I'd really like to avoid that if at all possible.
Right? Yeah. I mean, okay. So first of all, there's no reason that has to happen. There
But
is
again-
no reason that has to happen, but
Again,
maybe
you gotta-
it has to happen.
You got to figure out how to convince 99.9% of the populace to sacrifice so that a few people can profit off of this thing.
That's where the automation comes in. If what you're asking people to sacrifice is not their very lives, not the very things that they need to survive, but what you're asking them to sacrifice is this notion of consumerism, then that doesn't seem so daunting at that point.
And we're already in the
Doesn't?
process of socially engineering people into a mindset of globalization.
No.
Yeah,
No,
no.
we're
You don't
socializing.
say.
We're socializing people into the notion of distraction, so that they don't see what's going on. That's what the
Look,
booty and the gold chains are all about. It's bread and circuses.
Well, some of that stuff,
course, right.
I don't think there's some big plot out there to do this. I mean, some of this stuff is organic. The things that we want, the fads, that kind of stuff. I don't think there's, 10 guys in a boardroom planning out, what society is going to, what shiny object society is going to be enthralled with next. I mean, that happens to some extent, but I don't think it's as comprehensive as we want to think. There's I just don't think there's people that are smart enough to do that on any kind of level and keep it all secret. I mean, that's what the whole thing about conspiracy theories and stuff like that is. People can't keep fucking secrets, man. So,
right.
I don't know.
Is it just simpler than that? Maybe it's just profit motive. Is that it?
But it's the market. The market is its own weird entity.
Because you can make a profit off of almost anything. Vehicles, TVs, food. They make profit on food. How about that one?
Well,
That's ironic.
We need to take a few steps back and update the bread and circuses to Coke and hookers. Once we do that, we can move past all this.
Wait, no, Coke and hookers. What is that? Is that the same as hookers and blow?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
hookers and blow.
What?
Yeah.
If you
I
don't
like
get
Pepsi.
your blow off a hooker's ass, there's a problem. I'm just saying.
Nice. You know what?
We can't even move this podcast forward, and we're trying to think that we have some kind of solution for mankind. The fuck is wrong with you guys?
Hookers and blow.
Hookers and blow. Yeah.
Not enough circuses. Not enough circuses or bread.
Well, really, all we need is serotonin and dopamine. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Okay.
You asked before.
I'm good with
No epinephrine.
You asked before what the distraction is all about, and I'll, a really good. Is anybody going to be offended if I mention cancer? Okay, good. So
Astrology again?
It happens.
we've got hundreds of organizations out there trying to figure out a way to stop evolution from happening. What it's called is cancer research. I'm sorry, but when you eat the wrong things and you pollute your body's going to react, it's going to try to evolve, and it's going to develop cancerous cells. That's the way humanity works. That's biology. Welcome to the universe. So trying to cure cancer is a little bit like trying to cure evolution. It's just not going to happen. And we've got hundreds of organizations doing this. We spend billions and billions of dollars a year trying to do this. How do you think that plays into the concept of, hey, look, I just found another world that I can go to. Let's go take a look at it.
You're probably right. Suicide.
Is nuclear war starting to look better to you?
Suicide solution. Little Ozzy Osbourne. music.
It might just create the utopia that we all need in order to actually accomplish something.
Well, what you're saying is the utopia that we need is, 3 or 4 billion less people?
Necessity is the mother of invention.
I was just about to say, maybe there's just too many of us.
There really isn't, though.
Too many runaway desires and too many whatever.
When there's too many fleas on a dog, they find another dog. Some of them find another dog. That's how it works.
Very profound, Joel. Nice.
That's what this whole Kepler thing is about, isn't it? Right?
Finding another dog.
Finding another dog.
Yep.
In the neighboring galaxy.
Well, mostly within our own galaxy, but yeah.
All right. Well, any final thoughts? Anybody?
Oh no,
I'm just trying to avoid being called a racist.
You're not going to.
Well, that already happened. So, unless you have a time machine, and if you do, go forward and let us know how this conversation ends up.
As long as while we're going to visit some of these other planets, we don't run into any grays, because if we do and Al is with them, we're fucked.
Those motherfuckers dropped me off here when I was born and haven't come back, and I swear to God, I'm gonna.
Is that why you're a racist?
Oh fuck yeah, fuck those guys. Goddamn aliens.
Fuck the grays. God hates grays.
I identify as a gray, so.
Oh.
Huh?
Fuck you.
Oh, I see how you are.
I know. Okay. Well, I guess, Kenny, do you have any last words you'd like to get in?
Should we try to offer a potential solution or two before we leave?
I think somebody already did back in the 30s when we killed them.
Yeah.
Oh, the 30s.
What about Jim Jones in the 70s? That was a solution.
Yeah, Jim.
Or
calm down.
the 70s or the 80s.
Well, I'll tell you what. I
They
mean,
always get killed.
Yeah, we're up against we're up against the end of the podcast here, so I don't know if we had time to get into any kind of profound solutions, but any final comments, of course, if you've got a.
I think if we could tone down the whole spirit of competition and start loving each other more.
Damn straight.
That would be a good start.
Damn straight. You know what? You'd make a good Christian.
Oh. Don't insult the guy.
I've got more access, John. I won't let that happen.
Oh, by contact you will rub off? Well,
Yeah.
I can think for myself, too.
I suppose that's probably true.
We have.
I'm only going to provide information. What you choose to do with it, of course, is up to you.
Yeah,
Since you're not a cactus, you should be okay.
yeah.
So, Al, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I pretty much hammered this thing to death.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to wrap this up. So, us fleas are going to go find a new dog. Woof, woof.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks,
y'all.
Alfred. Thanks, John. Thanks, Joel.
Hey, Kenny,
Thanks
good
for
having
coming
you.
aboard, Kenny.
Thanks for
Kenny,
having me.
we don't have to. We're gonna end the broadcast.
Don't think you can change me. Yeah.